Hello everybody, welcome to the Commentator Ninja channel. My name is Mary Layton, the Commentator Ninja, and today, as promised, we are going to take a look at some competitions where changes have been made on the courses for female athletes and ultimately been very successful. We'll also have a quick conversation about how to do this logistically speaking if you're hosting a competition that has multiple age groups running, and hopefully start making some progress towards appropriately scaled courses for all female athletes in all age divisions to give them a more equal opportunity within the sport. You'll remember from our previous episode, episode number 3, we talked about some data from the WNL Season 7. In that data, we found that in the young adult through the elite division, 50% of their competitions were being decided by 5 to 6 obstacles or less, and only 20 to 30% of those fields were actually making it to the back half of the course. Not super motivating when it comes to keeping girls engaged in a sport and seeing the payoffs for their hard work. So, how can we be better? I'm really hoping that in this episode, it provides you some structure and some ideas on how to start making these changes, how to go about it, and of course, if you also have ideas, please chime in the comments. The first competition series that I want to talk about here is the Ninja Sport Network Championship Series. This got started in winter of this past year. It was their first season, and ultimately a really successful first season. A lot of athletes really loved the format. They were super fun competitions to attend, to watch, and Ninja Sport Network actually had differences in their courses for male and female athletes that ultimately had some pretty awesome results. So we're gonna look at that today. Before we dive into Ninja Sport Championship, let's take it back to 2019 when UNX first rolled around. UNX was piloted by Chris DeGangi and Ethan Swanson, who are also spearheading Ninja Sport Network. UNX competitions, same as Ninja Sport Network, super fun competitions. One thing about the UNX competitions is that they were really the first pioneers of having separate courses for female athletes. It really wasn't a conversation in the ninja community until they made it happen in the first season. And unfortunately, without having a follow-up second season, that conversation kind of died down until Kara Mack and I picked it up again on the Ninja Babes podcast. Ninja Sport Network, this next iteration of UNX, if you will, has continued to pioneer separate courses and course adjustments for female athletes, and this showed up in a variety of different ways across their qualifiers and also in their championships. It provides a lot of interesting case studies that we can look at to provide gyms some sort of idea of how to start making these changes for female athletes, but still providing them with a fun, exciting, and challenging course. Let's take a look at their first qualifier at Ninja Intensity. We're going to be focusing on their hybrid courses today that showed up in the finals for their qualifiers, as these courses most closely resemble a traditional competition style course. The Ninja Intensity qualifier had the same course all the way through to the final obstacle. The females had 4 moves up to the top of the tilting cliffhanger boards, and then had to make one big reach to hit the buzzer. The males had a different final obstacle, hopping an ice pick across T-pipes. This required more moves, bigger power, and also included directional changes and the need to not only control your body, but also control the ice pick they were using to hop across the T-pipes. It's a more advanced technique and harder to execute when you're gassed out from the obstacles before. A lot of times the difference between a female athlete and a male athlete completing a course comes down to power endurance, and there were a lot of intense power moves all throughout the rest of the course that definitely required a lot of the athletes. So I think that this adjustment was definitely a step in the right direction. The next one we're going to talk about here is the Rock Solid competition. This competition actually had very different courses for the male and female athletes in the hybrid, splitting after the 5th obstacle. The males had obstacles that were of a similar theme to the females. For example, the 6th obstacle was a flying bar move. The next had some agility involved, some tiny ledges, etc. But the males' obstacles were ultimately longer in duration and required more moves to complete. What this course accomplished on both sides was all of your highest performing athletes gassing out on the final obstacle. You saw an equal number of male and female athletes get deep into the course, but ultimately be unable to complete it because they were so gassed out from the previous obstacles. If I was to offer one critique of this course, it would simply be that doing something like this for a gym that is not as big as Rock Solid is pretty difficult. There's not a lot of gyms that have enough space to do 2 entirely different course routes after the first 5 obstacles. Thankfully, there are ways around that, and we are going to take a look at how to accomplish that in our next case study. At the Ninja Sport Championship, the courses were essentially very similar in course flow all across the board, but the Motive team was super smart about some of the changes they made to their obstacles throughout the course, appropriately scaling them for male and female athletes without giving themselves a huge amount of changeover work from one course to another. On the battering ram obstacle, you see that they have the major structure of the entire obstacle set up, and all they had to do to make a change between the male and females is push back the battering rams and add that funky boomerang hold. I'm sorry guys, I can't remember exactly what it's called. It looks like two skies attached to each other, probably not a boomerang, but I'm sorry. Battering ram by itself, still an obstacle you can get super gassed out on and have to use that popping motion, but the addition of the implement for the males, it just added another level of lock-off strength and control that was needed to really tire out the male athletes in the same way that the battering ram tired out the female athletes. Similarly, the next cliffhanger obstacle, they removed 2 of the drops for the female athletes. So the obstacle structure itself didn't change at all, just the way the obstacle was reset, which allowed for some quick and easy transitions between male and female course runs. Now you may be back home and thinking, those course changes at Rock Solid, those were way too easy. Why did they even have a single separate obstacle at Ninja Intensity if the entire rest of the course was the same? Why didn't they just have the females do all of the dropping cliffhangers at Motive? They totally could have done that. I hear you guys. There's always going to be questions when you look at changes like this. But let's take it back to our metric that brought us here in the first place. Course fail distribution. At the Ninja Intensity competition, there were the least amount of differences in the course between males and females. In the males final for hybrid, all 10 athletes got to the 8th obstacle. On the female side, only 2 females made it to the 8th obstacle, and the rest had failures that distributed back to obstacle 4. At Rock Solid, where you saw the most visible changes, the male athletes had fails evenly distributed through obstacles 7, 8, and 9. The females mostly getting to obstacle 8 and 9, much better distribution, and ultimately a more successful competition as far as getting the females deep into the course. At Motive Movement at the championship, same thing. We didn't go over all of the adjustments that were made for female athletes at Motive, but the results do not lie. The males made it to the final 2 obstacles evenly split, and the females made it to their final 2 obstacles of their course, equal opportunity. I went to the Ninja Sport Network competition that happened at Obstacle Academy out in Minnesota. It was freezing for any of you who are wondering, and it did not go quite as planned.
All the time we got for her run.
But at that competition, one, I got to commentate for a little bit, which is absolutely my favorite thing to do. As you well know, this is the Commentator Ninja channel. But more importantly, I got to have a conversation with Ethan Swanson about why he thought the Ninja Sport Network format was ultimately going to be what could progress Ninja forward as a sport. So what they're trying to do with Ninja Sport Network is make Ninja a spectator sport. That's why you have the finals in the format that you have with 3 different disciplines, hybrid, speed, and endurance, which gives the viewers the opportunity to see their favorite athletes compete 3 times in a row in fun, fast, exciting competition formats that also could be a make or break opportunity at any point in time for the athletes. It brings excitement. What Ninja Sport Network did by allowing for these course changes, it brought excitement to the female side of competition. No one's gonna tune in with excitement to watch females fail in 5 obstacles on a course that they know is much, much longer. And unfortunately, in the WNL, that's what we're seeing, is that it's 5 or 6 obstacles, and then for the females, the competition is over 50% of the time. What was also great about Ninja Sport Network is that your top females from all across the country had the opportunity to participate in an event, a high-level, well-run event where these separate adjustments were made. I tapped a couple of them on the shoulder and I said, what were your thoughts? Just pure, straight, honest thoughts. How did you like having separate courses in your competitions? How did it feel? There were definitely things that could be better as far as making sure that people were staying to cheer them on, and some of the other qualms and worries that people have had around separating the courses or making adjustments or having all the females go first versus all the males go first. So there were definitely things that could be improved, But ultimately, as far as their experience on the course, which is really what we're talking about, it was ultimately very successful, and a lot of female athletes had positive feedback. I'm sure there is more to this discussion. My top females out there, please chime in the comments, right, wrong, or indifferent, positive, negative feedback. We want to know it all. We want to know what you're experiencing in the sport as we're going through and making these changes. So please do chime in on that discussion. So we're starting to see how some of these changes can be made, but how do you do them if you don't have a ton of space, right? I don't have space at my gym to set up 2 completely different courses, or even a course that splits somewhere halfway through the middle. How do I do this? I'm going to show you a competition. It is the Vitality Obstacle Fitness 3-stage competition. We're gonna take a look at stage 2. Jordan put together a course that for the male and females had adjustments, but it followed the same course flow and essentially all of the same obstacles, with just some minor adjustments that made this a really successful course and also a really fun course for female and male athletes. So these changes, like I said, very easy to do, not super complicated. Obstacle 3, changed out the rings that the female athletes had for V formations and also raised the height of the V formations. Obstacle 4, not the easiest change to make in a WNL style competition, but the males had to do a 180 lache from the second wing nut to the wing ding, and the females were allowed to turn around to execute the move. Obstacle 5, females were allowed to use the spider to get to the rings, males were not. And I do want to highlight that was not the original plan, but after some height checks during the rules walkthrough, Jordan realized that that could potentially be a difficult point for the female athletes and changed the rule. And I think that flexibility is really awesome for course designers to have, especially if you haven't had a decent amount of time to test your course beforehand. So the gumdrop obstacle, that was at a different height for male and female athletes. The agility obstacle had a smaller ring for the male athletes to get to with the ice pick, and they were also forced to lache with the ice pick, while the females could lache directly to the bar. There were some dismount differences after the barrel drop, and then a dismount added for the females in between the final 2 obstacles. The female athletes also had more time on the course to get through everything by about 30 seconds. What I loved about this course was that it was fun and exciting and appropriately scaled for both your male and female athletes, with doing the simplest things, changing out holds, changing dismount distances, making one minor height change in the distance of an obstacle, or adding a dismount box. Super simple changes with really phenomenal results, a really great time for male and female athletes. You didn't have to divert the course flow significantly or create a bunch of different separate obstacles. Really simple changes in order for this to be successful. Hopefully with looking at some of these examples, you can kind of start to get an idea of what you could do at your gym to make these adjustments and ultimately improve the experience that your female athletes are having at your competitions. Now, if you're running a WNL style competition or a UNAA and you have multiple age groups to get through, I can understand a little bit of the anxiety about making sure you have enough time to go through rules with everyone. I really think, and again, this is totally going to be dependent based on what sort of adjustments you make, if you do a totally separate course or just minor in-course adjustments. But I do think if you take the approach that Jordan took, making those minor, small in-course adjustments, you should be able to keep all of the age groups, male and female, together throughout a multi-age competition. Another thing that cannot be overemphasized, in my personal opinion, is the importance of a course designer understanding their responsibility to know the skill level and the ability of the athletes that are coming to compete on their courses. I purposely did not really bring in the teen female division when I started my whole preamble. That's because I think in the teen female division, in the teen division, I think you can have the same course. I think the major adjustment that needs to be made for the female athletes is really more related to time limits and not so much difficulty of the obstacles. However, I don't really want to make that as a blanket statement because skill level and abilities vary based on the region that you're in. It's up to you as a course designer to understand who are the athletes coming to my competition, what are they all capable of doing, and is my course appropriate for that skill level? Is my course going to provide them a fun, exciting, and appropriately challenging course for all of those athletes? If you know that information, you're going to have better better competition attendance, you're going to have better reviews, and ultimately you're going to provide a better experience for male and female athletes. Now, let's talk tech. Hey everybody, welcome to the Commentator Ninja first ever tech talk with Matthew Bradley. We are pretty excited about this. Matt and I at competitions, we always talk about the different techniques that you can utilize on obstacles or various competitions that have come up. I always ask him questions. He always has a lot of great advice. You all know who Matt Bradley is, and you all know that he's also single. We are going to start talking about agility. Matt, how do you feel about agility?
I love agility.
The man loves agility, and the man's pretty good at agility. What is the hardest agility obstacle that you have ever done and completed successfully?
That's a good question. I did this one thing at the Herman's house that was hard. It was like Broken Bridge, but they spun, and me and Jacoby were going from like a hold into it. So not only did you have to like Lache into it, and there were 5 pipes, there's also like a rope at the end.
Do we have video of this?
I think. I have one video where I like tripped, straddled one of the pipes, and like still swung over to the rope.
That's pretty sick.
That was pretty painful. Today
we are going to take a look at a very classic, well-known agility obstacle that has taken out a lot of competitors on a show that we all know and love, the diving boards. Excellent with the pano.
You're very well.
Be proud right now. All right, Matt, why don't you show us how this is done? All right, so I noticed you took 2 steps in the middle here. Just walk me through that. When you're approaching this obstacle, what's the first thing that goes through your head as you prepare to attack it?
Well, the main thing is trying to like get myself in the space where I'm ready to fully commit. A lot of times with agility, it's like safer to fully commit than to like half commit. Like on Broken Bridge, for example, if you like stop halfway, the pipe's gonna go out from you and you're gonna fall on your back, which is a lot worse than just like falling forward. But like the 2-step here is when ATS was doing these, their goal was that it was too far to stride. So they wanted it to be that you'd have to do a step that would be short so it would kick up the board and you'd have to control it. If I just go right for that instead of having to react to it tipping up, then I can control it much better. Like I can stop on this if I choose to and just like balance, and that makes it look a lot easier because you have a lot more time to plan out this last step.
Awesome. So pretty difficult agility obstacle, but in reality something we don't really see at a lot of gyms right now. I actually can't think of any gyms off the top of my head that have this. Maybe
Rock Solid
few.
Apex has a set
Yeah.
because I made them.
There we go.
Yeah.
Rock Solid Apex has a set. So if you're going to that competition, go and train there before. So
Yeah.
how does this sort of technique, so a far stride with maybe like a single tipping point, how does that translate into another competition? What do you think we would see at other gyms that is similar to this?
So diving boards isn't super common, but it is similar to Diamond Dash in a way, where it's like a longer thing. This is about how long most Diamond Dash diamonds are, and you have to find where the pivot point is and step on or past it. Definitely a little different because of the ropes, but similar concept.
So if you had any sort of agility element that's as far apart as this, usually when we're looking at agility, we always tell people, okay, step in the center. You want to be in the center of that pivot point. But something as far apart as this, does this technique of hitting the center and then going to the further element, hitting the front of it, sending your foot to the other side and engaging that control, is that applicable in a lot of other agility obstacles where they're farther apart?
In some cases, yes. Like if you were doing Diamond Dash, for example, it wouldn't work. They react too quickly. But doing like Razor's Edge, for example, with those like dominoes from Tumble Track, if those are further apart, I like to kind of 2-step them. It's a little quicker because they react faster, but it also works.
Awesome. Very cool. So you mentioned hanging agility. So at a lot of gyms, Diamond Dash, there's a bit of a wider, there is 2 attachment points essentially on those. So it's a much wider point in the center that you can stand on. But at a lot of gyms, you really only see a single pivot point. So I'm thinking of full sends, French toast sticks, or a couple of gyms, sometimes they'll put, just hanging PVC pipes, just going all the way across. How is that different? Does that require any sort of different technique or still sort of the same thing?
Well, with diving boards, because it's not gonna like go away from you, you can step into it more. With any kind of hanging agility, you need to be pressing down. Usually hanging agility strides are gonna be a lot closer. This is 7 feet. Most hanging agility strides are more like 3 or 4 feet. But like with hanging pipes, for example, you don't really have to be that accurate. As long as you step on the pipe, you're fine. But any of the ones like Diamond Dash or French Toe Sticks, you have to make sure like your arch lines up with the pivot point, so you can kind of control it and not have it tip forward on you.
So what about, and I actually saw you do this at the Vitality competition, and I don't know if this was a mistake or not. So it was the agility obstacle they had set up, and there was a PVC pipe at the end, and you had to take the ice pick and go to a ring. Now what it looked like you did was you hit right dead center, but it looked like you almost pushed the PVC pipe forward as you carried yourself up to the ring. So talk to me about that.
That was like kind of intentional, but I find not really, but like I find myself doing that a lot on pipes up to things. The nice thing about that is it kind of gives you a little more time to like figure out what you're going for. Like I remember one time I was doing pipes to a special delivery, and I found myself doing that just because it gave me more time to find the delivery.
So almost a delay of, if I am running through an agility obstacle and I get to the last one and I'm stepping dead center, I have to immediately find whatever it is I'm going for. However, if I intentionally step behind it, I have that. We've probably all experienced this when we've failed an agility obstacle. When you step too far back, it kind of goes forward. So it just gives you that extra split second of preparation time to go to, or to look to whatever you're going to. Smart.
It definitely is kind of an advanced technique though. Like I would recommend people who are already very confident in their agility can try it, but if you're a little newer, I'd stay away from it. It's kind of dangerous.
What is the number one piece of advice you could give a beginner ninja who is starting to train kind of the scarier agility obstacles?
Progress at a pace that you're comfortable with. When I first set these up, I was terrified of these. It took me about 3 weeks to do them, because I train in here alone. So like if I get hurt, I'm like screwed. I had to get Tim from Dexterity to come in and spot me before I was comfortable doing these. Like comfort is extremely important, and getting hurt is going to make you worse at agility.
Yep. I'm Mary Layton, the commentator ninja.
I'm Matt Bradley. Thank you for coming to my tech talk.
This has been fun. Tune in soon for the next episode. This is Mary Layton, the commentator ninja, signing off.